thank you so much to everyone that responded and pledged donations towards feeding the school children when they get out of school in May versus when the summer food program starts. So because of all of your generous donations, all the club's generous donations, we were able to donate over $3,000 to feed the kids. And so that'll be over 150 school children that are going to be fed that week, which is huge. And Dr. Price and Susan Nelson, Director of Nutrition for Baldwin County Schools, they were thrilled to get that news, and it just makes all of us happy that we're going to be able, that's a great service project and way that we were able to help without actually being there. So your financial help is much, much appreciated. I don't know if Dr. Price is on here or wants to say anything or not. All right. Are there any other announcements from any of you all or any prayer requests? Just unmute if there is or put it in the chat. And Pamela, yes, we have you counted. Your name shows up. All right. Well then, Tom, would you like to introduce our speaker in our program for today?
Sure. So our speaker today is Mr. Matt Davis, and Matt is going to be taking us on a virtual tour of the old Governor's Mansion, as very thick brick walls will allow anyway.
Great.
All right, with Matt, you want to take over?
I think so, and a couple of moments of disclaimer here. As was just said, the Governor's Mansion has very thick old brick walls, so we have tried to find the sweet spots where the wireless works best. So if there's some gaps or some momentary pauses, forgive me. We'll get it back on as quickly as possible. And I am a historian, not a cameraman, so if the camera is a little shaky, I apologize in advance for any motion sickness that anyone receives. So without further ado, for those who don't know me, I'm Director of Historic Museums here at Georgia College, and have the great pleasure and honor of being the Director of Andalusia, the home of Flannery O'Connor, Georgia's old Governor's Mansion, and the Sally Ellis Davis House. And today I wanted to give you all a few minutes just to kind of take a virtual walkthrough of the Executive Mansion, tell you a little bit about the history, and kind of some key highlights of a few rooms we have here on the main level. And then afterwards, I'll be happy to answer any questions I can. Now, the Executive Mansion was completed in 1839 at the original cost of $50,000 to the state of Georgia. Considering the mansion is 21,912 square feet, that's not a too bad of a price. I think we would all like to have that price per square foot today. But accounting for inflation, we're talking a multi-million-dollar endeavor. And for Georgia, this was a structure that was built to be, in many ways, a status symbol, as we are emerging as the self-proclaimed Empire State of the South. And here in Milledgeville, the new capital city, relatively speaking, of the state, this was really one of the first monumental buildings that was constructed following the completion of the Capitol. Prior to the Governor's Mansion construction, governors lived in a series of rented houses, which included everything from private residence to log cabins. For in 1814, a small frame structure that sat on the corner of Clark and Green Streets, known as Government House, was utilized for the governor's kind of permanent residence. And it was there in 1825 in the Marquis de Lafayette Lodge when he came and, of course, took his grand tour of Milledgeville. By the early 1830s, Government House was really falling into a state of decay and disrepair, and the state really wanted to do something more permanent and more befitting of the executives of the state of Georgia. Now, when completed, the Governor's Mansion towered 4 stories. And really the testament to the architect's design named Charles Gillespie, who was a noted Irish architect who designed such buildings as the Old Medical College building in Augusta. He designed many of the road fronts and storefronts that you see on River Street today, including several of the stately homes like the Sorrel Weed House that still survive in Savannah. And most of you will probably know the lighthouse in St. Simon's Island, which was his last project just after the American Civil War, and he died on the side of malaria. And if you've been on St. Simon's Island, you know mosquitoes at certain times of year can be a lot of fun there as well. Incidents. Now, with this vision, the governors were given a residence and really with a stage in which the politics and social events of the capital will be played out upon, and also it really gave something befitting of the chief executives of Georgia. We can document that 8 governors, their families, and between 4 and 17 enslaved persons lived on the site at any given time, depending on the resident, who was in the residence in terms of the governors. Now, in the space here, it says governors of Halifax. He served as governor from 1851 to 53, and really rose the position after serving as the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives in Washington. Came back here to do his victory lap for a term as governor before heading back to Washington to be the Secretary of the Treasury. Another noted governor was Joseph Brown, our Civil War governor, and longest tenured governor in state history, as he served 4 consecutive, but only 2-year terms in office for 8 years in total. And of course, he was the governor during the American Civil War. Now, in the immediate aftermath of the war, Milledgeville's days as the capital city were numbered. Prior to the American Civil War, there had actually been 3 separate legislative attempts to take the capital away. Milledgeville really kind of stood in a very interesting crossroads at this point because the capital did move to Atlanta in 1868 and a transition had to come. Now, for the executive mansion, what do you do with a building that is now essentially state surplus? Well, for about 10 years, the state really had a hard time deciding what to do with it. A caretaker was appointed to oversee and care for the buildings, but then in 1877, it was transferred to what is now our sister institution in town, Georgia Military College, to serve as their first barracks facility. And it housed up to 80 cadets from 1879 to 1889. And as you can well imagine, having about 80 guys living in this building, the mansion was getting trashed pretty hard. So in 1889, the state decided to give this to the ladies of Georgia, through the founding of the Georgia Normal and Industrial College, which of course today is Georgia College. The mansion is the university's founding building. It would serve as the home of the university president until 1987, and was their office space until 1996. The other were utilized as a dormitory from the university's founding, and when students arrived on campus in 1891, they would live in the mansion up until 1947. Now, through the years, we can document at least 4 different renovations that occurred in the mansion. But after the president's use of the building ended, there was a very large discussion on campus about what we could do to preserve the mansion and better use it moving forward. So in 2001, we began a $9.5 million restoration to restore the mansion to its circa 1851 appearance during the administration of Howell Cobb. And we have the most documentation that really told us the whole story, from the collections to what the colors were on the walls, even what the textiles and the carpets looked like. Finished in 2005, this is one of the most active restored houses today in the southeastern United States. We are a National Historic Landmark. We are a fully accredited museum of the American Alliance of Museums, which the museumese is the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval. And in 2015, we became the 9th affiliate of the Smithsonian Institution in the state of Georgia. And were recently named as a distinctive destination by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So we've come a long way in a short amount of time. Now, with all that preamble done, I promise that will be the longest I speak without breathing on this little virtual tour. But I want to show you a couple of rooms and tell you a little bit about the story here, if I may. And hopefully the Wi-Fi signal will hold out onto this. Now, coming into the next room, you see here the Grand Salon, which is really one of the most monumental rooms that we have in the building. Patterned after the east room of the White House, it is a 30 by 60 foot room that runs the entire length of the executive mansion and has about 1,500 square feet of space within it itself. Now, what is interesting about the room, you can see 2 of 3 original plaster medallions in the ceiling there, which are campus leaves, which are reminders that this is a Greek Revival home. And of course, the grand furnishings in the salon were meant to be a place of entertainment and really the main social room of the house. For governors, this was their man cave. During the business day, they could bring guests to this room to discuss matters in a less formal setting than their office. They could have some cigars, they could smoke or drink some whiskey, play a few games of poker around one of the center tables, or in the evenings, the grand promenades and waltzes would have been held this year. That's Bert, one of the enslaved persons here in the administration of Howell Cobb, would have been charged with bringing the furnishings in the center of the room, and so the promenades and waltzes would occur here on this beautiful Axminster pattern carpet. Now, what you see here today is a 100% wool, hand-stitched replica of that original carpet. It was laid out in 26-inch strips, and during the restoration, we found documentation in state records that told us exactly what this carpet looked like. And to tell you a little kind of behind-the-scenes story, we actually got to bump the Lincoln bedroom of the White House during their restoration to get this done first, as our deadline was a little tighter. And so we've always been a little appreciative of our friends in Washington for giving a favor from one executive mansion to another. Now, interestingly about the room itself, too, during the dormitory years at Georgia College, this was split, believe it or not, into 9 separate dorm rooms. Now, I don't know about you all, but my dormitory does not have black Italian marble fireplaces nor 14-foot ceilings with plaster medallions. And so we're thankful that these original elements survived, and we do know the room was reopened to its original configuration sometime in the 1950s, and then we did the work from there to restore it. But really, this is one of the most photographic rooms that we have on the site, and you really get to see it at a great time of day with the sunlight pouring in the rooms here. Now, moving back into this next space, I'd like to welcome you into the governor's office. Now, for the governors, this is one of two offices maintained here in the city of Milledgeville. And as the primary working space for a governor who needed to get away from the hustle and bustle of politics to get some work done, and quite frankly, if you need to bring a legislator or a constituent to your way of thinking, this is a very private room to do it in without the walls having too many ears. Now, one of the great things about this space is that it's an octagon, and my camera work is not going to do this justice, but we have an 8-sided room here, which is kind of an innovation of our architect, Charles Plusky. You used everything from rectangle rooms like you just saw in the Salon to octagon rooms to even a round room you'll see in just a moment to maximize as much lighting and ventilation into the house as possible. As you can see here, these 3 back windows here at noon are just getting a ton of sunlight pouring in through them, and we face east here so you get the best of the easterly breezes, making this a very comfortable and well-lit room for the governor to work in. Now, very monumental decisions were made in Milledgeville. Everything from the recovery of Georgia's economy following the Great Collapse of 1837 to instances around the Great Compromise of 1850, and of course, about the American Civil War. And the desk that you see framed in the photograph here is the original desk of Governor Joseph Emerson Brown. Commissioned in 1857, it was utilized by him throughout the entire American Civil War. And decisions that were made here in Milledgeville included at the beginning of the conflict was to fund the troops and do everything from seizing the federal arsenal at Augusta, which is now Augusta University Summerlin campus, to taking Fort Pulaski near Savannah. After the Civil War, this particular piece of furniture ended up in state hands in the early 1930s, and from 1996 to 2008 was the official desk of Georgia's Secretary of State, in which it was then donated back to the Stewart Museum and restored to its original condition you see today. Also, I don't know about you, but I'm spending a lot more time in my recliner during this quarantine vacation, and I wanted to get a view here of actually the world's first patent example of a reclining chair. And this is the Holmes patent recliner, dating to 1857, and that is your lazy boy's great-grandfather. It actually belonged to Governor Joseph Brown and was donated to us by his family in the 1970s. It is in full working order, and we did a restoration which included removing about 3 layers of brown and orange shag fabric off of this piece to find that original red velvet you see today. And it is fully mechanical, so if you come on a tour sometime soon, and we do hope to welcome you back sometime soon, we would love to show you this in operation. Now, finally in the room, one last artifact of kind of fun note, and I don't know if my camera work is going to get this in all the way, but we'll try, is the 1847 map of the state of Georgia. Now, today in Georgia, we have 159 counties. When this map was completed, there were only 89 counties on it. But it's interesting, and I'm not going to be able to get this in the frame, it's too small. It does have the earliest known images that you may just be able to see above my head here of the governor's mansion and the state capitol building here in Milledgeville, which proved quite invaluable for us and our restoration work on the exterior and grounds. Finally, just behind me here, you also notice there's a pretty large volume of library books in this space. And I don't know about you, but in the evenings I've been catching up on some reading as we've been going through this whole situation. For the governors, they had everything from legal books, from the Acts of the General Assembly to the U.S. Congress, including even a complete set of Shakespeare from 1847. So what really makes this room cool is the waiting room that you had to come through to get to see the governor. And of course, that is the famous rotunda, which many of you have seen previously and beforehand. Now, the rotunda was the interior waiting room to see the governor before entering his office. But on most business days, you had to sit in these chairs just surrounding the room. And if you could tell by the way the acoustics are picking up, you had to be real careful what you had to say about the governor's politics later in the stage, as he certainly would hear what you had to say. I kind of envision this, Mr. Candler, like sitting outside the principal's office if you got into trouble when you were a kid, as you had to be real careful on not only the governor would hear you, but with the family on the floor above. Now, the dome is really the most surprising and unique architectural feature of the house, as it soars 50 foot off this main level floor. It is completely hand-molded plaster gilded in 23-karat gold. Many of you will remember this room that during the holiday season, we do put the 23.5-foot Christmas tree in the space, and under normal circumstances have choirs and performing ensembles in the space, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to do that this year as well. Now, to finish up today's tour before I take up some questions here, I do want to take you into one of the really private rooms here on the main level of the house, and that is the family dining room. Now, the family dining room was considered to be the kitchen table. And at the kitchen table of the Executive Mansion, this is a space for the governors and their families to enjoy dinner away from the fine eyes of the public, perhaps have a small, more intimate gathering than a large state dinner, which would have been held in our basement state dining room, which was of equal size and dimensions of that great grand salon you saw a little bit earlier, or if necessary, governors could have cabinet meetings in this room if the need arose. What was really interesting historically about this space is this was the headquarters of General William Tecumseh Sherman, who headquartered here on November 23rd, 1864. Sherman's army arrived in Milledgeville with 30,000 Union troops, and Sherman himself came one day later and set up his headquarters within this room. All of the furnishings, the draperies, even the foods in the groups had been evacuated from the house prior to Sherman's arrival. And we note in his journal that he actually mentioned sleeping on his stowed equipment in this room, basically the cot he slept in his tent, and commented had the former occupants left in bad disfavor for those coming to visit. We know he met with his corps commanders in this room to finalize the last aspects of the campaign, and 1 month later, Savannah will be presented to President Lincoln as his Christmas present. The height of that sofa that you see here actually belonged to Governor Brown and his family, and was one of the pieces we can almost certainly document as having been removed from the house. Also, I don't know if this is going to come out very well on the camera, but there's a large platter that is on the dead center of the dining room table, which is our most recent acquisition. And it is original turkey platter that belonged to Governor Howell Cobb, and was part of the set that was given to him by the General Assembly in thanks for all of his work through his various careers, and particularly his work as governor. This was donated to us 2 weeks before the shutdown took place, so we're still working and bringing the original artifacts to this house. Now, moving forward, we do hope to, at some point soon, be able to reopen for at least limited operations for tours, but no definitive dates and timelines have been set yet. But I wanted to thank everyone for their attention and taking the time for time, and Joe for letting me have this opportunity to speak to y'all today. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions about the museum or anything we've learned about today.
Matt, this Jim thing, I apologize if you said it earlier. Is there any records of sitting presidents during that time or even way after that have ever visited the governor's mansion?
Unfortunately, we've never had a sitting president visit the house. The most important leader that we can document having visited the building was in 1846 when National League leader Henry Clay, who was still in the U.S. Senate at the time, did visit with our governor, George Walker Crawford, who was Georgia's only Whig Party governor. Governor Crawford had served the Georgia Supreme Court while he was in office and was a really close ally of Henry Clay. But quite frankly, other than the generals that visited here, that's our most important politician that we know of.
This was awesome, Matt. I don't want you to stop. I want you to continue. I wish that the Wi-Fi would allow you to go down in the basement. That would be really neat. You do a great job, and I could hear you talk all day long. But you're so interesting when your delivery too. So we really appreciate it. Any other questions? I have a question. What's the average cost of upkeep for the house today?
In terms of monthly maintenance, weekly, yearly, we have a maintenance budget actually through an endowment that was done at the conclusion of the restoration through Raise Fund. We use about an $18,000 to $22,000 budget a year for maintenance, but to be clear on that, that's not just for the house itself. That's also for the collection. As we get over 15,000 visitors a year in a normal circumstance, there's wear and tear on some of the ropes, different pieces of fabric. And just, the natural age of things that we try to maintain as possible. And wherever possible, we use that for raised funds, not only through the endowment, but our annual gala that happens every year here as well.
Right. Any other questions for Matt? Well, hopefully we can schedule a time to have our Rotary Club come out there and see everything in person and get the behind-the-scenes tour that you couldn't do on the phone today.
We would appreciate it, and I'd love to take you on the nickel tour up into the attic. So thank you all very much for the invitation.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Matt. All right. That was great. That was awesome. And Thank you. We appreciate Matt sharing with us today, and although it is really cool in person, I think he made it actually come to life on the camera screen, so we appreciate him for that. And then next week, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, I have on the calendar that we'll be actually hearing from Dr. Irene Burgess, who is the director of the Andalusia Institute. And I'm not sure if that includes an Andalusia tour or just her speaking to us about Andalusia.
We'll get some more details in the next day.
Okay, so either way, another interesting jewel that we have in Milledgeville that we can share with everyone. I don't know about you. I've been to the Governor's Mansion several times, and I've probably heard a lot of that before, but it's still interesting and exciting to hear all that again. So looking forward to that. And are there any other announcements or any other requests from anyone?
This is Maurice. I just want to say thank you to our Rotary Club members. I received a check yesterday for over $3,000 to be able to purchase meals for our students during the week after school gets out. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really, really appreciate your generosity.
Yeah, I made the announcement that we were able to serve over 150 children at over $3,000. I don't think you were quite on the call yet. It was very first in the beginning. So yes, thank you so much for that. And we're happy to do it, and we will be blessed in knowing that we were able to bless others that are hungry and are in need. So great news.
Thank you to each and every one of you.
Yes, great club. Thank you so much to everyone. Any other announcements? All right. Well, thanks again to Joe for getting everything set up, and to Tom for our program. And thanks to Matt for the awesome presentation today. And hopefully in the next month we might be able to see each other again in person. But until then, I will see you all next week on WebEx. All right. Let's go make a connection. Have a good day. Bye.